My boss denied my time off because we're grinding. So I checked where he was working from. The blue light of the monitor was burning a hole in my retinas. It was Sunday, January 25th, 10 a.m. Outside my window, the sky was a bruised shade of gray, spitting sleet against the glass that sounded like handfuls of gravel being thrown by an angry toddler. Inside my apartment, the air was stale, smelling of cold coffee and the distinct, metallic scent of overheating electronics. I shouldn't have been here. I shouldn't have been sitting in this ergonomic torture device of a chair, staring at a command line terminal that was scrolling text faster than I could read it. I should have been 3 hours south, at my sister's engagement party. I should have been holding a glass of champagne, making fun of my future brother-in-law's terrible taste in ties. I had asked for this weekend off 3 months ago. 3 months. But I wasn't there. I was here. Because of David. I stopped typing and looked at the email still open on my secondary monitor. I had received it on Friday at 4:45 p.m. The cowardly timestamp of a man who likes to drop bombs and run for the elevator. Subject, time off request, Jan 24/25. From, David, Director of Ops. Marcus. I know you planned this, but I'm going to have to rescind the approval. We are in crunch time for the Q1 migration. The investors are breathing down my neck, and we need all hands on deck. This is a wartime scenario, buddy. We need to be grinding. I'll be working all weekend to ensure the transition is smooth, so I expect you to be logged in and responsive too. We are a team. We sacrifice together. Declined. We sacrifice together. I read that line again, and I felt the heat rising in my neck, a thick, suffocating wave of rage that made my vision go blurry at the edges. My hands were shaking. Not from caffeine, but from the sheer, unadulterated desire to throw my monitor through the window. David didn't know how to migrate a server. David didn't know the difference between Java and JavaScript. David was a ideas guy who spent his days wandering the office with a ceramic mug that said hustle, asking us if we had circled back on things that didn't matter. But he was the boss. And he had held my bonus over my head like a carrot on a stick for 6 months. If I walked out, I lost 10 grand. So, I stayed. I called my sister. She cried. I told her I was sick. I lied to my family because my boss told me we were at war. I took a sip of the cold sludge in my mug and typed top into the terminal. The server load was fine. Of course it was fine. I had automated the migration scripts 2 weeks ago. There was absolutely no reason for me to be staring at this screen other than David's need for control. He wanted to see the little green dot next to my name on Microsoft Teams. He wanted to own my time. I sighed, rubbing my temples. All right, David, I whispered to the empty room. Let's see how hard you're grinding. As the senior sysadmin, I have visibility on everything. Every packet of data, every login, every connection that touches our network passes through my dashboard. It's not something I abuse. I value privacy. But when you tell me we are in the trenches together, I expect to see you holding a shovel. I opened the VPN connection logs. I wanted to see when David had logged in. I wanted to see him suffering too. I wanted to see him replying to emails at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, miserable and caffeinated, just like me. It would have been a small, petty comfort. I ran a query for his username, D_Henderson. User, D_Henderson. Status, active. Connection time, 9:15 a.m. Duration, 45 minutes. He was online. Okay, I muttered, leaning back. Fair play. The guy is actually working. For a second, the rage subsided. Maybe I had misjudged him. Maybe the investors really were pressuring him. If he was online on a Sunday morning, maybe he really was stressed out. Then I looked at the latency column. Ping, 145 milliseconds. That was high. David lived in the suburbs, 10 miles from the office. On a fiber connection. His ping should be 15 milliseconds, max 145 milliseconds meant he was either routing through a potato, or he wasn't where he said he was. I frowned. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I shouldn't snoop. It's unethical. It's against protocol. But we sacrifice together echoed in my head. I typed the command to inspect the connection details. Source IP, 189.203.x.x. I stared at the numbers. That wasn't a local ISP. That wasn't Comcast or Verizon. I copied the IP address. I opened a geolocation tool in my browser. I pasted it in. The map loaded. A red pin dropped onto the screen. It wasn't the suburbs. It wasn't the city. It wasn't even the country. The pin was hovering over a jagged tip of land at the very bottom of the Baja California peninsula. Location, Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. ISP, Grand Solmar Lands End Resort and Spa. The air left my lungs. I blinked, waiting for the map to correct itself. It didn't. I zoomed in. The satellite view showed turquoise pools, white sand beaches, and little cabanas nestled against the rocks. Cabo, I whispered. The word tasted like ash. He was in Cabo. I sat there, frozen. The sleet hammered against my window, mocking me. I was sitting in a freezing apartment in a gray city, missing my sister's engagement, because my boss told me we were in a wartime scenario. Meanwhile, he was sitting in a 5-star resort in Mexico, likely wearing linen pants and looking at the ocean. Maybe he's working remotely, I said aloud, trying to play devil's advocate. Maybe he took a working vacation. That's allowed. If he was working, he'd be accessing the shared drive. He'd be opening the migration spreadsheets. He'd be sending emails. I opened the traffic analyzer. I filtered for his IP. I looked at the packet headers. If he was working, I'd see traffic on port 443 for Outlook, or SMB traffic for the file servers. There was almost zero traffic on the work ports. Just a tiny heartbeat to keep his team's status green. But the download throughput? It was massive. He was pulling 15 megabits per second, steady. I drilled down into the destination domains. NFLXvideo.net. NFLXimg.net. Netflix. He wasn't working. He wasn't grinding. He wasn't sacrificing. He was connected to the corporate VPN to make it look like he was online, but he was routing his personal traffic through it to bypass the region locks so he could watch American Netflix in Mexico. He denied my vacation so he could watch Stranger Things by the pool. I felt something snap inside my chest. It was a physical sensation, like a rubber band breaking. The fear of losing my bonus vanished. The fear of getting fired vanished. It was replaced by a cold, mathematical need for vengeance. You want to be connected, David? I hissed. Let's make sure everyone knows you're connected. I cracked my knuckles. I had domain admin rights. I could do anything. First, I went to the Exchange server. I opened David's mailbox settings. He hadn't set an out-of-office reply, obviously, because he was pretending to be working. I created a new rule. Auto-reply to all external and internal senders. I needed the message to be professional enough that it wouldn't get flagged immediately by the spam filter, but devastating enough that it would ruin him. I typed. Subject, automatic reply, out of office. Hello. I am currently out of the office enjoying a much-needed getaway at the Grand Solmar Resort in Cabo San Lucas. The Wi-Fi here is excellent, but the margaritas are distracting. Since I am focusing on recharging my batteries this weekend, please direct all urgent inquiries regarding the Q1 server migration to Marcus, my last name. I denied his vacation request for his sister's engagement party specifically so he could handle the workload while I am away. I will be back in the office on Tuesday, tanned and rested. Best. David. I hovered over the Save button. This was the nuclear option. This would go to clients. This would go to the CEO. This would go to the investors he was so worried about. I clicked Save. But I wasn't done. I opened the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. I found his user profile. I couldn't change his status from available to away because he was actively using the connection to stream, so it would just flip back. But I could change his status message. You know, the little text that appears when you hover over someone's name. I typed, Palm Tree current location, Cabo San Lucas. Do not disturb. Binge watching Netflix. Palm Tree. I saved it. Then, I did the petty thing. The thing that would ensure he couldn't undo it immediately. I went back to the VPN server. I found his active session. Terminate session. I clicked yes. In Cabo, his stream would stop buffering. He would panic. He would try to reconnect. I added his MAC address to a temporary block list. Error 800, connection refused. He was locked out. He couldn't log back in to change his status. He couldn't log back in to turn off the auto-reply. He was stranded in paradise with no access to the company network, while his email server shouted his hypocrisy to the world. I closed my laptop. I stood up and stretched. My back cracked. I walked to the kitchen and poured the rest of my cold coffee down the sink. I opened the fridge and grabbed a beer. It was 11:30 a.m. I didn't care. I pulled out my phone. I had about 15 missed texts from my sister. Me, hey. I'm feeling better. I'm on my way. Save me a slice of cake. I turned my phone off. I got in my car and drove south. The weekend was a blur. I didn't check my email once. I danced. I toasted the happy couple. I slept for 10 hours on Sunday night. Monday morning came. The reckoning. I walked into the office at 9 a.m. sharp. The atmosphere was electric. You know that feeling when a storm is about to break? The air was heavy. People were huddled in hushed clusters by the coffee machine. When they saw me, they stopped talking. They looked at me with a mix of awe and terror. Marcus, Sarah from HR whispered as I walked past. Did you see? See what? I asked, playing dumb. The email. The investors. The CEO. I smiled. I've been offline all weekend, Sarah. Grinding on the servers. You know how it is. I sat at my desk. I turned on my monitor. My inbox was full. There were 3 emails from the CEO, Robert. Robert, David, what is this auto-reply? Robert, David, answer your phone. Robert, Marcus, please come to the conference room immediately. I grabbed my notepad. I walked to the glass-walled conference room at the end of the hall. Robert was sitting at the head of the table. He looked like he had swallowed a lemon. And there, on the big screen, was David. He was on Zoom. He was clearly in a hotel room. The wall behind him was a textured beige stucco. He was wearing a polo shirt, but his face was undeniable. He was lobster red. He had a sunglass tan line around his eyes that was practically glowing. He looked sweaty. Frantic. Marcus. David shouted through the speakers as soon as I walked in. You're fired. You hacked me. Robert, he hacked me. He changed my password. He locked me out. I sat down calmly. Good morning, Robert. David. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I spent the weekend managing the migration scripts as ordered. Don't lie to me. David screamed. You changed my email signature. You put that slanderous message about Cabo. David, Robert cut in, his voice icy. Are you in Cabo? David froze. He looked at the camera. He looked at the beige wall. I am working remotely, David stammered. I had a family emergency. I had to travel. A family emergency at the Grand Solmar Resort? Robert asked, looking down at a printed piece of paper. I had IT verify the IP logs this morning before Marcus arrived. Robert looked at me. Marcus, did you authorize a block on David's VPN access? I did, sir, I said, keeping my voice steady. I noticed suspicious traffic on Sunday morning. High-bandwidth streaming data coming from a foreign IP address in Mexico. It looked like a compromised account. Standard security protocol is to terminate the connection and blacklist the MAC address to prevent data exfiltration. I assumed David's laptop had been stolen. It wasn't stolen. David yelled. I was watching a movie. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert slowly took off his glasses. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. So, Robert said softly. You denied Marcus's time-off request. You told the team we were in a wartime scenario. You told me you would be leading the charge this weekend. I was monitoring. David pleaded. I was on call. You were watching a movie, Robert repeated. While Marcus was here. And while your auto-reply, which went to 3 of our biggest investors, bragged about your margaritas. Marcus set that auto-reply. David pointed a finger at the camera lens. He sabotaged me. Did you write the part about the margaritas, Marcus? Robert asked me. No sir, I lied. I've never been to Cabo. I wouldn't know about the margaritas. It doesn't matter, Robert sighed. David, the damage is done. The client perception is catastrophic. We look like clowns. Robert, please, David's voice cracked. I've given 5 years to this company. And you just took a very expensive vacation, Robert said. Don't bother flying back, David. We'll ship your personal effects to your home address. You're terminated, effective immediately. David's mouth opened and closed. He looked like a fish on a dock. Robert. Disconnect the call, Marcus, Robert said. I reached for the remote on the table. David stared at me through the screen. His eyes were wide with hate. I looked right into the camera lens. I gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. Click. The screen went black. Robert let out a long breath. He looked at me. I know you changed the email, Marcus, he said. My heart skipped a beat. I know you did it, Robert continued. The denied vacation part was a bit too specific. And frankly, a bit unprofessional. I apologize, sir, I said. I was frustrated. I get it, Robert stood up. He was a hypocrite. And I hate hypocrites. But don't ever use company servers for a vendetta again. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Good. Since the director position is open, do you want it? Or do I need to look externally? I blinked. The director position? You know the systems better than he did. And apparently, you know how to handle security threats. Even if you manufacture them. Robert smirked. It comes with a 20% raise. And you get your own office. I'll take it, I said. Good. Now get out of here. Take the rest of the day off. You look tired. I walked out of the conference room. I walked past David's empty office. I saw his hustle mug sitting on the desk. I picked it up. I walked to the break room. I dropped it in the trash. I went home. I sat on my couch. I turned on my TV. I opened Netflix. I searched for Cabo San Lucas documentaries. I watched the ocean waves roll in on my 4K screen, drinking a beer at 11 a.m. on a Monday. David is still unemployed, as far as I know. Word travels fast in this industry. The Cabo incident became a bit of a legend on LinkedIn. Sometimes, when things get stressful at work, I think about him. I think about him sitting in that hotel room, sunburned and fired, realizing that his little grind set speech had just cost him his career. He wanted us to be a team. He wanted us to sacrifice together. Well, he sacrificed his job. And I sacrificed my weekend. Seems like a fair trade to me. So, tell me. Am I the monster for hacking my boss's email and getting him fired while he was on vacation, or did he unplug his own career when he decided to stream Netflix during a war?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.